This is News Now, reaching you live from iBrandTV News Studio in Lagos, Nigeria. Coming up, the House of Representatives Committee on Customs and Excise threatens to delete banks who are not remitting custom duties. The Senate President Ahmed attributes leadership deficits as one of the factors preventing Nigeria from achieving sustainable economic growth and development. Reps from Benue State People's Democratic Party Kakus cautioned the Minister of State for Special Duties, Senator George Akume, on his call for emergency rule in the state. In business, oil price falls on Thursday after OPEC Plus agreed to keep its policy of gradually returning supply to the market at a time. Glad to have you join us on News Now. Here are some stories we are tracking at this hour. My name is Margaret Opara. We begin with a story from the House of Representatives Committee on Customs and Excise, threatening to delete banks who are not remitting customs duties despite owing a huge amount of money. The committee says this move becomes imperative following leakages discovered in most revenue-generating agencies, and it is committed to block these leakages to shore up more revenue for the federal government. The chairman, Lekia Bejide, stated this during the interactive session between committee and banks on Wednesday in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja.
We've got this letter. We've done a lot around reconciliation within the bank, and we have all the findings showed that we didn't have any unremitted amount, and we provided the evidence because all those items which are highlighted as unremitted, they were actually remitted.
We've gotten the clarification that it is not the physical document that we are looking for, but whatever information that we can find from our system. Be rest assured that as a very credible bank in the country, we cannot, you understand, say today there is any information that we cannot be able to. If we are not talking about the physical documents have been burnt, but we'll go back to our system and bring the electronic information.
We do not use our own app. We are happy to adopt a settlement app, which is third party. A third-party settlement app. We're happy to do that. The SLA signed by Customs was signed in 2012, and the SLA did not state that we should adopt any particular software.
And we are going to make sure every kobo belonging to custom that are not being given to them or are being delayed, used for businesses, will be recovered. We are determined. And I want to just tell you now, we have not done so much in our investigation. We have only checked only 5 banks. And I can tell you now authoritatively that we have discovered 10.6 billion against only 5 banks.
The President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, has attributed leadership deficit as one of the factors preventing Nigeria from achieving sustainable economic growth and development, as well as addressing its insecurity and other socio-economic problems. Speaking at the inauguration of the 4th cohort of Kashim Ibrahim Fellowship, a leadership mentorship program for young people initiated by the Kaduna State government, Senator Lawan said the leadership gap needed to be bridged at all levels of government if the nation was to make a headway. He also added, and I quote, "For us to reach the level of development that we need in our country, every part, segment, and strata of the society must have a developed, deliberately focused leadership so that we can do the local level complements what we do at the state level, and from there, terminating the apex at the federal level." End of quote. The lawmaker therefore stressed that there is a need for governments at all levels to come up with a deliberate policy to sustain leadership through mentoring young people on leadership skills and public service. The President of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, has received the final report of the forensic audit of the Niger Delta Development Commission (NDDC) from Niger Delta Affairs Minister Godswill Akpabio. The documents conveyed in sacks were received by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, who represented the President. In his remarks shortly before handing over the report, Akpabio disclosed that the forensic audits covered a total of 13,777 contracts awarded from 2001 to 2019 at a final contract value of 3 trillion naira. In more stories, police authorities in Zamfara State have confirmed the abduction of 73 students of the Government Day Secondary School in Kaya, in Maradun local government area of the state. The spokesman for the command, Mohammed Shehu, confirmed the number of students abducted in a statement on Wednesday. The abduction followed the invasion of the school by a large number of armed bandits that occurred on Wednesday today at exactly 122 hours. The policeman spokesperson said the command, under the leadership of CP Ayuba and Elkanah, has deployed search and rescue team that was mandated to work in synergy with the military to ensure the safe rescue of the abducted students. According to Shehu, the police have asked residents, especially parents and relatives of the abducted students, to be patient and continue to pray for the success of the rescue operation. Meanwhile, troops of 25 Brigade operating under the aegis of Joint Task Force Northeast Operation Hadin Kai, or PHK, have neutralized 4 terrorists of the Islamic State West African Province, ISWAP, recovering some arms and ammunition in process. Spokesperson of the Nigerian Army, Brigadier General Onyema Wachuku, in a statement on Thursday, said the terrorists were neutralized along Damboa, Balubulin, Meduguri Road on Wednesday, August 31st. Wachuku added that the troops recovered 4 AK-47 rifles and 4 magazines, each loaded with 30 rounds of 7.62 mm special ammunition from the troops. The troops also captured and destroyed an ISWAP logistic vehicle conveying assorted goods and contraband items belonging to members of the terrorist group. That was part of activities lined up to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the creation of Osun State. The government has unveiled plans to honor 28 distinguished and prominent citizens of the state. The Chief of Staff to the Governor, Dr. Charles Akinola, stated this in Osogbo while addressing journalists at a press conference on the imperatives of anniversary celebration.
Without any doubt, you agree it's a significant anniversary for the state and deserves to be marked and celebrated as a way of paying due tribute to the illustrious struggles of our founding fathers, people who have been involved pre-1991 to date, and also an opportunity for us to catalogue our success stories and for us to reflect on our journey so far. And as we do that, also to glean, look at what lessons do we have for the journey ahead.
Now, the National Broadcasting Commission has reached out to the National Information Technology Development Agency for the help in digitalization of its processes. Embassy Director General Balarabe Ileha paid a courtesy visit to NITDA corporate headquarters seeking the agency's support. This was contained in a press statement titled NBC seeks NITDA's support on capacity building digital transformation, issued by NITDA. Spokesperson Hadiza Umar on Wednesday. The Director General of the NITA, Kashifu Abdullahi, assured the Embassy Director General of his agency's commitment to deploy its expertise to support any organization with zeal to upgrade to modern technology. He further assured that the embassy would be incorporated into its digital transformation working group to facilitate capacity building for their personnel and teach them relevant technology application. Now, away from that, the residents of Okomu community in Edo State are disturbed over the abandonment of the community by multinational companies. Residents of the community also claim the state government and Okomu Palm Oil Company have failed in their corporate social responsibility to them as a host.
Happens to be the host community to Okomu Oil Palm Company. when you see when a company is using the name of a community, actually, it matters a lot, or else the name wouldn't have been useful for them. But in spite of all this, we are not benefiting something good from that company. So we are looking at it that it is a kind of marginalization, it is a kind of spoiling our people, at the same time destroying the forest for no reason.
That you can see that the life we live here is barbaric, because no health center, no school. You can see a lot of children. All these children, they are supposed to be in school. Only parents that can pay their school fees maybe take them to Udo, hire a house for them. We have a primary school here, but the only headmaster is the only teacher from primary 1 to primary 6. So the community contributes money to pay some hired teachers to groom some of the children.
As far as I'm concerned, had its own internal problems. And our company will not engage with a community that is fighting with itself. Because if you do, you'll be damned if you do, damned if you don't. Why? Because you'll go to this group, and then this group will say, we are the group that you should talk with, and then the other group over there will say, they are the group. So we actively remove ourselves until such time as the community are able to put together a de facto community committee that will represent them wholly.
And members from Benue State People's Democratic Party caucus and the House of Representatives have questioned the Minister for State for Special Duties, Senator George Akume, on a statement calling for an emergency rule in the state. The caucus, while briefing newsmen on Wednesday in Abuja, said the press conference by Senator Akume was loaded with the meaning negative by citing perceived inability of Governor Samuel Ortom to contain the herdsmen killing in the state.
Caucus is, however, displeased with the improper language deployed by the minister in addressing His Excellency Governor Samuel Uriah Ortom, the defender of the Benue Valley. The caucus calls on the leader of the All Progressives Congress in Benue, and indeed all stakeholders behind his onslaught against the government and people of Benue State, to retract the call for emergency rule in the state for the interest of democracy and explore other means of resolving the nagging and persistent insecurity in the state. This caucus calls on President Muhammadu Buhari to embrace his conscience, rise up and end the bloodletting caused by his kith and kin in Benue State now. The caucus calls on the former governor of our state, Dr. George Akume, to retrace his steps and employ dialogue and amity with the governor of the state, His Excellency Dr. Samuel Ortom.
I have 21 council wards in my federal constituency, but as we speak, 9 are not accessible. That is to tell you that half of my federal constituency is not accessible, and that is the state capital. The humanitarian situation, over 1 million people, a population of just about 4 million. You have about 1.5 million in IDPs across the state. A man who wakes up a day and does not know the source of his food, where to lay his head. What is 800 million to such a population in a month? Assuming it's even true. Assuming that is true. The crisis we have on our hand is to make sure the federal government and every well-meaning son and daughter of Benue pull hands together to solve the issue, not to pull down the government. This is beyond politics. Tell me which part of the country today that is safe, apart from the south side, that is relatively safe. So anybody, you should rather be tasking political leadership or political leaders or elites from other parts of the country who are not talking, and not to brand Ortom as somebody who is using security to seek political relevance.
Now the senator representing Kaduna Central, Senator Ubasani, has called on the federal government to decentralize police force into state police and set up other community security in locals to tackle banditry and security between the state and the country at large. He said that this when he pays in condolence to Senator Nala in Kaduna, says efforts must be put in place to end insecurity.
Understand it. Because if we don't understand it, we will continue to prescribe the medicine that will not cure. And the prescription, which is dangerous to me, which I have said so far, is for politicians to attempt to politicize the issue of security.
What happened to his son is really a very painful situation. Of course, he was murdered in his own house. It's something that all of us are really worried about what happened, because that clearly shows the level of insecurity in our own country.
Now coming up next is business news.
Thank you, Margaret. Welcome to Business News. I am Frank Komalape, and here are some of the reports we're filing now. The federal government has gazetted the Petroleum Industry Act 2021 as the commencement of the act started on August 16, 2021. According to a reviewed copy of the Gazette, the act will provide legal governance and fiscal framework for the Nigerian petroleum industry, the development of host communities, and for related matters. As stated in the Gazette, the Host Communities Development Trust, for the benefit of the host communities for which its settlor is responsible, must be incorporated within the next 12 months and will be funded by an annual contribution of 3% of a company's actual annual operating expenditure of its preceding financial year in the upstream petroleum operations affecting the host communities. Away from there now, commercial loans obtained by Nigeria through Eurobonds rose from $1.5 billion in 2015 to $10.87 billion as of December 2020, indicating a $9.37 billion or about 625% increase in 5 years. The debt stock remained at $1.5 billion from 2015 to 2016, but rose to $6 billion by 2017, indicating a $4.5 billion representing 300% rise within a year. However, the federal government still intends to seek more funding through Eurobonds, which will increase Nigeria's Eurobonds debt stock. Recall the federal government had appointed transaction advisors to facilitate the issuance of Eurobonds in the international capital market, according to a statement issued by the Debt Management Office. And in the meantime, the Senate on Wednesday accused government-owned enterprises of wasting the current dwindling revenues in the country by engaging in spending sprees instead of remitting the appropriate funds into the Federation account. The chairman of the Senate Committee on Finance, Senator Solomon Adeola, made the accusation on Wednesday at a public hearing on the 2022-2024 medium-term expenditure and fiscal strategy paper organized by his panel. Adeola noted with concern that big spenders like the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, among others, had yet to remit their operational surplus to the Consolidated Revenue Fund account over the years. Away from there now, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, has revealed that the asset of the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, NSIA, increased from $1 billion in 2015 to $3.5 billion in 2021. Zainab spoke yesterday at the inauguration of the third board of the Investment Authority at the Senate House, Abuja. She said from a base position of $1 billion when the Buhari administration assumed office in 2015, the authority now had about $3.5 billion in assets. The minister explained that the board will, on behalf of the Nigerian people, guide and oversee the NSIA management's activities towards delivering outcomes that will transform the fortunes of the country. The Nigeria Export Processing Zones Authority, NEPSA, has partnered with the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, NIPC, to facilitate investment in the 3 newly approved special economic zones in Lagos, Kwara, and Katsina State. Recall the federal government recently approved a total of 6 states economic zones to be sited across the 6 geopolitical zones. The NEPZA Managing Director, Professor Adesoji Adesuba, and the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission Chief Executive Yewande Sadiku yesterday agreed to work together, explaining that the synergy of the two partners will help to attract the desired local and foreign investment to the zones. And our total value of dollar remittances by Nigerians working overseas has surged to $34 billion, a figure that easily surpassed the previous record high of $25 billion, according to a report. The increase, which has been attributed to the Central Bank of Nigeria's Naira for Dollar incentive scheme, again highlights the growing importance of diaspora remittances to Africa's most populous country. However, despite the surge in remittance inflows, Nigeria continues to grapple with foreign exchange shortages, which in turn has contributed to Naira's continued depreciation as well as the resultant rise in inflation. And on the African scene, motorists will be charged between 75 shilling and 100 shilling every hour for parking within the Nairobi city center if a new policy proposal by City Hall is implemented. Parking on off-street spaces attractive for the relative safety of vehicles from theft and vandalism will cost 100 shilling for every hour as part of efforts by the country government to make the most of the high competition available slot and ease traffic congestion. The policy also wrote for the removal of season tickets option for parking in the city center and offers the same outside the city center at 6,000 shillings per month. A 2019 report by Nairobi Assembly Public Accounts Committee revealed that in the financial year ending June 30, 2027, a total of 1.3 million vehicles, or billion vehicles rather, parked in 6,125 slots during the financial year, but only 2,401, representing 31%, pay for parking. Away from there now, the Bank for International Settlement will test the use of central bank digital currencies with Australia, Malaysia, Singapore and South Africa in an experiment that could lead to a more efficient global payment platform. Codenamed Project Dumba, the study aims to develop prototypes for a common platform that will enable international settlement in digital fiat currencies issued by central banks. Globally, central banks are trying to come to terms with emerging payment technologies pioneered by tech firms including China's Ant Group Co. Additionally, Facebook Incorporation's DM project, formerly known as Libra, is building out a global payment network that will could service its own stable coin or central bank digital currencies. And on the international scene now, Asian stocks were missed Thursday as Chinese technology shares paid a climb following a fresh regulatory assault from Beijing. Traders were also cautious as they await U.S. jobs data to gauge the incentive outlook. Chinese tech shares listed in Hong Kong came off their highs after criticism of ride-hailing firms highlighted risk from the nation's ongoing crackdown on private industries. U.S. and European equity futures fluctuated overnight. The Nasdaq 100 edged up to a record and the S&P 500 was later changed. And why? Investors are trying to assess when the Delta variant virus outbreak might peak, as well as the implications of reduced central bank policy support in the month ahead. And in the oil market now, oil prices fell on Thursday after OPEC Plus agreed to keep its policy of gradually returning supply to market at a time when coronavirus cases around the world are surging and many U.S. refiners, a key source of crude demand, remain offline. Brent crude was down by 16 cents or about 0.2% at $71.43 a barrel in early trade after dropping 4 cents on Wednesday. U.S. oil fell to 23 cents or about 0.3% to $68.36 a barrel after rising 9 cents in the previous session. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and other producers, including Russia, together known as OPEC Plus, agreed on Wednesday to continue to a policy of phasing out record production reductions by adding about 400,000 barrels per day each month to the market. Well, and that wraps it up now on Business News at this time. And thanks for watching. I am Frank Omalape. It's back to you now, Margaret.
Thank you, Frank. Now coming up is Sport Business with Judechi Chideze.
Welcome to the Sports Business Update. I am Judechi Chideze. Now, a global audience of 328 million people tuned in to watch the Euro 2020 finals, UEFA.com has revealed. Gareth Southgate's England's side made it all the way through to the final before beaten by Italy on penalties at Wembley. UEFA said this tournament received 5.2 billion cumulative views globally, with an average of 100 million per month. The incredible TV figures show the massive appeal not only in Europe but worldwide. This, according to the UEFA statement. The UK audience peaked at 30.95 million for the final, which was broadcast on the BBC and ITV, and an average of 29.85 million watched the whole game between Italy and England. There was also a 7.5 billion interactions across social media platforms, and UEFA's official account posted 2 billion in views during the tournament. And moving on to tennis, players at the 2021 US Open will compete for a record $57.5 million in prize money and compensation when the tournament finally kicks off. The USTA, ATP, and WTA agreed to the prize structure, which actually decreases the winning of the men's and women's singles champions from $3 million to $2.5 million US, and the runners-up to $1.25 million. There's a trade-off, however. Now the US Open qualifying tournament, we have nearly $6 million in prize money, up 66% from 2009. Players competing in the first round will receive $75,000 US, a hike of 23%. Meanwhile, despite the US Open being played in an arena with a retractable roof, play at the event in New York was postponed due to flash flood warnings as the city experienced a downpour on Wednesday night. Despite the roof at Louis Armstrong Stadium being closed, water fell onto the court and the stands. And that's all for now on the Sports Business Update. It's back to you, Margaret.
Thank you, Judechi. Now to entertainment business news. Britney Spears' lawyer wants Jamie Spears to resign as conservator of his daughter's estate without a multi-million dollar payout that he's requesting. In a new court filing on Tuesday, Matthew Rosengart states that although Spears' father said in a filing last month that he would eventually resign, Rosengart wants him to step down today before he is suspended. He is requesting approximately $2 million US to cover legal and management fees, as well as payment for continuing to do my best to keep current regarding the music. Advertising and entertainment business as stated in the court filing from August 12th. Now, the singer's father had been the conservator of her estate for 13 years, but in two separate court hearings this summer, Britney Spears described the arrangement as abusive and said she wanted her conservatorship to end. Jamie Spears maintains he's consistently acted in his daughter's best interest as a conservator. The next hearing is scheduled for September 29th. In more entertainment business story, the Flairback founders company, PMWB, has filed accounts with Companies House that show she had a hugely profitable 2 years, with almost half of the firm's revenue generated in the 7 months to November 2020. PMWB, the parent company of Phoeb's production company, Well Street Films, posted pre-tax profit of $15.6 million in a 20-month period covered by the account. The firm's previous account fell below reporting thresholds, meaning it was so small it didn't have to disclose profit or revenue publicly. Between April and November last year, the 36-year-old actress and writer paid herself a salary of £33,000 as sole director and took home a dividend of £1.4 million. PMWB had 2 other staff members, and this wage bill totaled £509,183. The company paid £1.3 million corporation tax last year. At this point, we wrap up the news now at this hour. For more news stories, visit our website and follow our social media platforms. My name is Margaret Opara.